am originally from Carlsbad, New Mexico. I moved to Lubbock, Texas for college. I graduated there with my master's in nutritional sciences. I'm a registered dietitian at the Veterans Affairs. So, been doing that for a little over 2 years. And I also was a collegiate track and field and cross country athlete. And so I'm all about health and fitness and nutrition.
Was nutrition something that you've always been interested in?
Yeah, I think so. Ever since I was little. My family has always been kind of obese, not really knowing much about nutrition. I didn't really know anything about it, and so it kind of piqued my interest growing up, and I decided, yeah, I want to give it a shot, see what I changed my major like 2 times and before I found nutrition. I was like, this is cool.
At what point did you get into athletics? And it was the track and field and the running, cross country, all that stuff, was that always what you like doing, or was there stuff along the way as well?
Well, I really wasn't very athletic. I was always very clumsy. Um, and I tried basketball. I just wasn't good at sports, but there was one thing that I was okay at, and it was running. And but my school, we're a 2A school, low income area, so we didn't have a cross country team. And then 6th grade, I ran track, and I liked the longer distances, but the longest we had was the 1600 meter. So I did track 6th and 7th grade and 9th grade, and then I kind of just stopped until college. And I started just kind of casually running again until the summer of my sophomore year of college. I really started getting into it a lot more. And I met a cross country coach back in Carlsbad over the summer that he was from a different high school. And he's like, you can train with our team over the summer if you want. Like, if you like running, just run with us. So I started running with them. And then he said, hey, you're pretty good. Maybe you should try out for the team at your school. I was like, okay. So it kind of came from there.
Do you ever feel like you ever had a time where it was like, okay, I've had enough of this?
Many, many times I've felt that way, like, oh, I'm burnt out, especially after my first marathon 5 years ago. I would just kind of come in and out of running, in and out of running. And then until recently, I've been really, really consistent with it. But I think that's natural to, kind of fall out of love with things and back into love with things. But yeah, that's happened many times. I remember in college too, a lot of times before races, I would get super nervous about just anticipating that it was going to hurt really, really bad, and preparing for that feeling. Like, I know I'm going to want to throw up. My heart's going to be beating out of my chest. And so I'm not going to lie, like, even this marathon that I just completed April 2nd, even then, I was still feeling that like anticipation of that pain, and just knowing the level of effort that you're going to have to go through. So I think that's always kind of there with, at least for me, with athletes. You feel that, because yeah, nobody wants to feel that level of pain, but in a way you kind of learn to embrace it and kind of let it carry you through. So
Yeah. And for me, it was like right after I got done, I was like, I never want to run again. I'll never do this again. And
yeah.
then kind of as the next year passed, and I was like, well, maybe I'll consider it. Then this year it's like, well, maybe I would do it again. I think there's a certain feeling you get from running and doing something like a marathon or half marathon, whatever kind of that milestone is. What does that feel like for you whenever you go out and you accomplish, a marathon or some kind of like record run for yourself? Like, tell us a little bit about why running kind of keeps you engaged so well.
Honestly, it's just that sense of accomplishment. Like, I've been working for this for months and months, in the buildup and the anticipation. And then finally, you're there. It's the day, you're at the start line, and you got all that adrenaline rush, and it's just this high. And, whenever you cross that finish line, it's just like, oh my gosh, this sense of just joy. Like, I want to feel that again. When can I feel that again? So I think it's addicting in a way, like you were kind of saying.
Yeah. What do you do to kind of get through that soreness?
For sure, nutrition, it plays a huge role, making sure, during the race that you're properly hydrated, and I don't just mean water, like also electrolytes, making sure after, and sodium, of course, that's an electrolyte. And then after, making sure you're getting adequate protein, because that's a huge thing. If you're not, I think a lot of runners don't get enough protein. So yeah, if you don't have that protein to replace and help repair your muscles, that can really lead to more soreness. So for sure, nutritional aspect. Also trying to make sure that you're staying active. I think after a marathon, all you kind of want to do is curl up in a ball and go to sleep. But that's really not the best thing. Just afterwards, try to get a little bit of walking if you can. Like this last marathon, I could not run at all. They say try to run the next day, do like a shakeout run. I could not. So just walking, doing some yoga, stretching, definitely doing some type of ice baths really helped me personally. There's kind of iffy evidence on it, but I mean, anecdotally, it helps. So, foam rolling, there's just so much you can do to try to help get over that soreness, because I know it can be really hard. And I'm still kind of dealing with it a week and a half later. So
Yeah. Who do you look to for kind of that like mental training, mental strength, kind of like mental dexterity?
I know too. I do think about that coach that started training me way back when, in high school. I thought about him because he's just a very mentally strong person. So kind of during the race, I would remember the times that were hard that I got through, and also just thinking about all of your family, your friends, the people that are depending on you, that are really rooting for you, and also kind of yourself. You put all that work and effort in. So those were kind of the things that kept me going during the race. I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to let my family and friends down. So those were the main things.
If it weren't for the spectators, I don't know if I would have finished. I don't know. Do you kind of
Yeah.
have that similar viewpoint as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're just, kind of scattered throughout the marathon, and they're watching. They're just so happy to see you running, and they just really want you to keep going. And so I think it does give you that little boost of confidence, a little bit of adrenaline to keep you going throughout the race. So spectators are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they played such a big role. It's just like it's almost like a brain inside your brain. They're there to push you in a positive way whenever you're kind of like I said, your own brain's telling you, stop, this is insane, turn around. It's kind of
Yeah.
a controversial topic. Is 75 hard? How did you find that program, and what made you want to start doing it?
I actually heard about it through a friend of a friend who was just visiting for a Texas Tech football game. And at that point in my life, I was very much kind of lost and didn't really know how to get back on track. Very, I was going through a really heavy depression and had really bad anxiety. I was going to counseling, trying like cognitive behavioral therapy. I was trying new medications. I mean, I was just in not a good place. And whenever I heard about 75 Hard, she was kind of telling me about it, I thought, you know what? I've tried everything. I'm going to give this a try. I listened to Andy Frisella's podcast on it that same day, and I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it 100%. I'm not going to just try it. I'm going to finish this thing, and I'm going to go all out. And I I did, and I'm so happy that I did, because it really did make me mentally so much stronger than I ever could have thought I could be, like, even stronger than when I was a college athlete. I mean, it just turns that switch, and it gives you that momentum that I was needing. I needed that momentum, and it coincided with the marathon, so really helped.
What was the hardest aspect for you?
I think the hardest aspect was probably, I would say the time management, especially, like, in phase 1 particularly. It could be hard, especially when you're traveling or you've got friends and family over and you're trying to maybe too having to say no a lot of times to people and saying no to yourself because whenever especially you first start, you might be craving certain things that aren't on your meal plan, and so learning to say no can to yourself can be really hard.
Having kind of a sports background as well as a nutrition background, did that play it all into, do you feel like that was maybe an advantage, or do you feel like that played it all into 75 hard for you?
I think yeah, I think it definitely did because going in, I already knew what my body needed as an athlete for the particular, thing I was preparing for. I knew about macronutrients, micronutrients, I knew all of it, it was just putting it into practice, and so this gave me that push, like, "Okay, take your own advice, you need to start, really doing what your body needs and using food as fuel instead of using it as a coping mechanism."
It can be a little bit intimidating, looking at 75 days of almost complete discipline. Did you ever feel like, along any point where it's like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this? Or did you have any outside influence saying maybe you shouldn't be doing this?
I think there was a lot of times I wanted to quit. I was kinda like you said with the marathon too, just kinda like, "Why am I doing this?" I really don't. It's 11 o'clock at night. I really don't wanna do a second workout right now. So I think that the biggest barrier was myself. As far as people around me though, nobody was really super against it or anything. They just were just supporting, so it was good, but
One thing I know for me, what I got out of it was almost like this idea of, if it seems like it's a challenge, just go after it. That was like kind of my biggest takeaway from, during it, and then at the end, kind of my realization of what kind of switched in my head. What do you think was your biggest takeaway or biggest thing that you've grown from it?
I think looking at it, a lot of people look at it the wrong way. They're looking at it like, "Oh, it's really strict, it's really this or that," but I was looking at it as it's not to lose weight, it's not to be, it's not a physical fitness challenge, it's a mental toughness challenge. And so I looked at it that way, as just a way to callous my mind and become mentally stronger. So looking at it in that perspective really, really helped.
And I feel like, and kind of going back to it, like running is such this mental battle. How did that kind of like practice, almost doing what you don't want to do, help you achieve that?
I mean, honestly, I don't think I would have done that marathon if I didn't do 75 hard and the Live Hard program. I really don't because I wasn't mentally strong enough at the time, and it really yeah, even during the marathon, I just kept thinking, like, all the stuff you've done and how far you've come, and you're I don't know, you just don't quit, like, you can't quit after you've done 75 hard.
Do you feel like you enjoy more of that endurance running versus the shorter racing?
I mean, I would rather honestly do a marathon than a 5K. Um, I think it's just that I mean, a 5K, yes, like, it's really hard, but a marathon, it's just, like, an entirely different beast. You just the mental aspect of it for that many hours you're running and all the times in those hours that you could quit and that you want to quit and you don't, I think it's just my favorite thing.
Yeah. I feel like whenever I do a 5K, it's more like I'm almost like feeling really hectic and crazy in a way, because I'm just like, okay, just keep going, keep pushing, like faster, faster, kind of. And then when I'm doing, or when I did a marathon, it was more like almost a peaceful in a way. Like at certain times, it was like meditative. It
For
was
sure.
such like inner. Sometimes it was like thinking about my own self. Sometimes it was like completely thinking about nothing, or thinking about, the scenery. It just seems like it was more of a, it's It's kind of weird. Obviously, it was a marathon, but it was just like a marathon of thought almost, like completely on all different kind of spectrums of thought.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there's just so much time to think. And like you said, with a 5K, it is hectic, and you're just kind of trying to finish. In the marathon, there's periods where your body doesn't hurt, and you can enjoy that peaceful time until it starts hurting again.
So, do you have or have you ever done any races longer than a marathon?
Not yet, but I would like to. I'd like to maybe do a 50K ultra to start out.
What kind of as obviously with your nutrition background and with the running background, from so much experience, like what kind of training and what kind of like racing differences, major differences do you see between kind of those two events?
I think you from and I don't know a lot about ultras, but I think definitely it'd have to have more volume in the week, higher mileage. Definitely, you're gonna have higher caloric requirements. You're gonna have just more nutritional needs to fuel longer. So I think those are the main things: is increasing mileage and then just meeting your nutritional needs.
Have you ever thought about like Ironman or anything like that, or are you just strictly with the running?
I've thought about it, but not seriously. I'm not very, I don't really swim very much, and I don't bike very much.
What do you think keeps you motivated? You kind of talked about having the struggle and the challenges along the race, but what do you think keeps you actually motivated? Is it something specific that keeps you motivated throughout a race whenever you're just absolutely, you know, cramping or just gassed? What is it for you?
I mean, there's just this kind of primal need that kicks in whenever you're at your lowest of low point, that it's just honestly, the thought passed through my head, because I do think I had maybe I didn't have enough sodium. That's my opinion. That I was getting really dizzy, my legs were really jelly, and I felt like I was gonna pass out many, many times. And of course, that kind of makes you panic a little bit. And I just kept telling myself, like, I'm either gonna leave this thing on a gurney or I'm gonna cross the finish line. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna quit. And it was just um, competitive drive kind of kicks in during the race too. Like, how many times have you just slowed down or not done as good as you could have, and you just kind of just got by? Like, this isn't the time to do that. This is the time to perform. This is the time to when else are you going to have this chance to be in this great of shape and really achieve? So that kind of kept me going.
Yeah. And do you feel like you almost have like an obligation because you have your health, because you have the ability to do it, that you almost like have to do it?
Absolutely, yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way, but it did. It felt like an obligation to do it. I don't know. And I mean, I work with homebound veterans that, they might not be able to walk, or they're at the end stages of life, and it kind of on a daily basis gives me that perspective of, wow, how lucky am I to be able to even walk, much less run, and to run this far. It kind of does really put it into perspective that you're so blessed and lucky and fortunate to be able to run.
Do you do any like weightlifting or do any kind of like resistance training?
Yeah, and I think that the I was doing mostly phase one and phase two and going 75 hard, so I had to do extra workouts anyways. So I would say probably 1 or 2 days a week I'd go to the gym, but I'd also here at the house do some weightlifting, along with some yoga. And so maybe like total 3 or 4 days a week I was doing some kind of resistance. And also there towards the end for the last month, I was doing core exercises every day. I had a lot less, I would say, pain, and I don't want to say injuries, but I think it did definitely help prevent injuries, just making the joints stronger, the muscles stronger. It helped to promote that leg turnover during really hard workouts, even hill workouts. Having that quad muscle, that core muscle to help keep your body upright. I mean, it just, I think every runner should do some type of strength training, at least on a regular basis. I think there's more awareness now than there used to be about it. So I see more people like weightlifting, strength training than before.
How did you, choose which diet you were going to go with on 75 hard?
Yeah, I chose what I knew I could stick to. So it wasn't actually very rigid. It was more having macronutrient, knowing, about 55% of my calories are going to come from carbohydrates. I knew I wanted about 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein, and then kind of let the fat fall where it fell. And then I did cut out foods that I knew I was going to binge on because I didn't even want to have that around. So, like, I cut out all chips and junk food. I shouldn't say junk food, but like ice cream and candy and anything that was deep fried, I cut that out. And during the whole like 75 hard phase 1, phase 2, I lost 23 pounds. And I mean, running faster than ever. I beat my 10K college record in the marathon, which was even further than just a 10K. So I think it kind of speaks for itself. Stop waiting. Stop waiting for motivation. It's not coming. You have to really, really want it, and it doesn't have to be complicated. People overcomplicate it all the time. It just and start small. You don't have to take big leaps and bounds. And it's just really that consistency, like they say, being being consistently good is better than being occasionally great. So just really hone in on your why, and just take that first step. Don't be afraid, because you're gonna get that time's gonna pass anyway. So where do you want to be at the end of the year? The same place, or do you want to be where you've always dreamed of being?